Welcome back, my friends.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and these are all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in Squid Game Season 2. So the first season of this series was a worldwide phenomenon, and arguably it's one of the greatest shows ever made. And Season 2 is jam-packed with symbolism and hidden details that not only connect to Season 1, but give us a few hints for what's next in Season 3. We're going to explain Gi-Hun's true motivations and why he's not really the hero that he pretends to be. And, you know, this is ScreenCrush, so you know we're going to talk about the Marvel connection to this show, Thanos, and what this a-hole truly represents. It's you and me.
Let's go!
So the first season ended with Gi-Hun abandoning his trip to America to be with his daughter and instead staying behind to use his newfound fortune from winning the Squid Game to bring down the games once and for all. Now, as noble as Gi-Hun's intentions may be, this is yet again a reminder that he's a bad father, placing his own personal ambitions above his responsibilities. Granted, bringing down these games that are preying on innocent and desperate people is a pretty important mission to embark on, but going 3 years without seeing your daughter, that's pretty messed up, and it reminds us that Gi-Hun is an obsessive gambler who allows his obsessions to consume him. This addiction and lack of care for his family is responsible for his separation from his wife and daughter. This addiction is also what led to him participating in the games in the first place. Now, in Season 1, Gi-Hun does return to the games after voting to leave because he needs the money to help his sick mother. And, come the end of the games, he refuses to kill his old friend and is willing to walk away with nothing, again, showing us that there is most definitely a good side to him. But this season is all about the front man's mission to prove that Gi-Hun isn't better than him or the games, and that good is dumb.
You think you're special, you do.
Anyways, in Season 2, Gi-Hun is using his newfound fortune to track down those behind the games and to bring them down, and to spare the lives of hundreds of innocent people in the process. But at the same time, we have to realize that Gi-Hun's hunt is yet another obsession, another game that he is playing, allowing him to dictate his life and keep him away from his responsibilities as a father.
벌써 2년이나 뒤졌는데 그림자도 안 보이잖아.
Now, speaking of fathers, we have a theory a little later in the video that connects Gi-Hun, the front man, his detective brother, and the original Player One, you know, the old man who created the games. I mean, this season constantly had me on the edge of my seat, and I was so stressed out. And normally, whenever I get stressed, I want to like squeeze my face on one side and clench my jaw, or I just like nervous eat all the time. Like I have a lot of bad oral fixation habits that are tied to stress.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm pretty much always munching all the time, but I'm a little dog.
I know, so like I needed something to help me forget all of my bad oral fixation habits and replace them with the positive habit. So that's why I started using Fume, an award-winning flavored air device that's a sponsor of this video.
Does that use vapor or something?
Nope, not at all. It's not electronic, there are no batteries to charge, and it does not have pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals. Instead, it has these small plant-based cores that are infused with natural flavors to create natural flavored air. See guys, Fume contains no nicotine, it's not addictive, and it contains non-toxic flavors. Instead, it has plant-based flavors like spearmint ice, cinnamon hearts, and my current favorite, crisp mint.
That's why your breath smells so nice.
Oh, I thank you, but mostly I just like that it still gives me something to reach for when I feel anxious. It even has movable parts for fidgeting that make an incredibly satisfying sound. And guys, Fume continuously invests in third-party studies to ensure the safety is their products, and it's backed by doctors in the USA. And maybe you don't have a bad oral fixation habit, but you know someone who does. Fume is a great gift to help them change their habit today. After all, Fume has served more than 300,000 customers like myself, and you can be their next success story. So this holiday season, you can give the gift of better habits with Fume. Head to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush and use the code ScreenCrush to get a free Fume topper when you order your journey pack today. It's the perfect addition to make your gift even more special. And if you're lucky, you could even win one of Fume's limited edition gold-plated devices this holiday season. Again, that's tryfume.com/ScreenCrush or scan the QR code on screen right now to get yours today. Before we get into Gi-Hun and his relationship with the front man, I want to talk about one of the antagonists in the games, the rapper Thanos.
What's up? Nice to meet you, my brother. Welcome to the Thanos world.
Now right away, he stands out as this cartoonishly stupid, evil person. We find out that he's a successful rapper who named himself after the Marvel villain.
Bad you know, Chel. I'm a legend, Thanos.
I don't even know who you are.
He's painted his nails to be every color of the Infinity Stones and talks about snapping away half the universe, which by the way is foreshadowing the ending of episode 7. You see, Thanos is obsessed with his own image and money, and he's the only person who seems to take actual glee in playing the games. That's because Thanos represents us, or actually our own consumption of slaughter for entertainment. This is why the character speaks in English, because he represents the worldwide audience that embraced this show.
You! Oh! Let's go!
I mean, he's named after the villain in the second highest grossing movie of all time, and he's always encouraging everyone to just play one more game.
Let's play one more game, okay?
Like, as the merry-go-round spins, he frolics, detached from his reality because he represents the audience. He doesn't feel like he's in any more danger than we do when we watch this show. Specifically, though, he represents the audience's reaction to Squid Game Season 1. Just like us, he wants the games to continue. He just wants to see one more game. I mean, think about it. After the first season was such a breakout hit, we got a Squid Game TV show. Mr. Beast broke the internet by replicating the games. Hell, right now, there's a Squid Game set up in Times Square. You could argue that Netflix missed the point of the series by doing all of this, or you could say that they were embracing the point of the series. By over-commercializing a competition for wealth, they were, in a way, pointing a finger back at us. We're just like the wealthy elites at the end of Season 1. Just like them, we sit on our comfy couches and we enjoy watching these people suffer and die. So Thanos, as irritating as he is, serves this function in this show. In the first game, he kills people on purpose because it makes it more fun and interesting. He is a bully, he instigates problems, he's the instigator of the violence in episode 7. But above all, he just wants the same thing that the audience wants. You see, Thanos is the embodiment of TikTok and influencer culture. He's a charismatic guy who reduces life and death morality to catchphrases or dance moves. And it's fitting that he is killed by the crypto guy, you know, by a YouTube influencer. This is saying that the path of endless commercialism will not save you. In fact, it's going to be the downfall of art.
And are you fully aware of the irony of you saying that?
Yes, I am fully aware of the irony of me saying that.
And no, the irony is not lost on me.
So one of my favorite things about the first season was the relationship between Gi-Hun and the old man. Now we of course learned that at the end of the series that the old man was behind it all, and the old man used the games as proof that good no longer existed in the world. Gi-Hun behaved nobly throughout the games, not stooping to the levels of other players like Player 101. That is until Gi-Hun was finally pushed to his breaking point and exploited the old man's dementia to win the game of marbles.
그 구슬 하나랑 이걸 다 걸으라고요? 자네가 날 속이고 내 굿을 가져간 건 말이 되고?
In this moment, the old man had won. He proved to himself that goodness and selflessness were a thing of the past. But Gi-Hun undoes this at the end by sparing his old friend Sang-woo. Despite Sang having become a cold-blooded killer, and despite Gi-Hun being one kill away from walking away with a fortune, he offers Sang the opportunity to walk away together. Now, I remind all of you about this because this entire season is a direct echo of this battle of ideologies between the old man and Gi-Hun. In the final moments of Season 1, Gi-Hun entered into yet another wager, a wager with the old man to prove that good still exists.
자정까지 저 사람이 그대로 있으면 내가 누군가 저 사람을 도와주면 자네가 이기는 거야.
Gi-Hun won this wager. A good Samaritan came to help, but the old man was dead before he could witness it.
누군가 그 노숙자를 구하러 왔다는 걸 알면서도 창밖을 보려고 하지 않았지. 숨이 멎는 순간 분명히 알고 있었어. 자기가 졌다는 걸.
Now that is partially responsible for Gi-Hun's new game, his mission to win this wager with the old man, even in death, by bringing down the games. Now, the relationship from the first season between Gi-Hun and the old man is brilliantly paralleled by Gi-Hun and the Front Man's relationship this season. This relationship is paralleled with surface-level symbolism like the Front Man also being player number 1, just like the old man before him.
번호도 1번, 이름도 0일.
오, 그러네? 이름이랑 번호는 똑같네요?
But there are also more in-depth parallels with the Front Man's manipulation of Gi-Hun from within the walls of the games, planting ideas in his head and pushing Gi-Hun to do things that they want him to do, all while allowing Gi-Hun to think that he's making decisions for himself.
저 돈이 꼭 필요합니다. 저게 남의 목숨값이라고 그래도 제 와이프하고 애기 꼭 살리고 싶습니다.
They are actually manufacturing the illusion of free will. The illusion of free will is another theme of the games and the series as a whole. The players choose to come in and play the games, but in reality, they're offered an opportunity that they cannot afford to turn down.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
They're offered this democratic exit from the games via the voting system, but only after manipulating the players with money prior to the vote. This is yet another example of how this series is a reflection of our own corrupt system. In democratic countries, we have elections, and technically speaking, we do choose our own leaders. But with legal corruption, like millionaires and billionaires dumping stacks of cash into super PACs that run misleading ads, and rigged partisan gerrymandering, one could argue that even our free and fair democratic system is yet another example of free will being a mere illusion.
The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business.
This tactic of pitting people against one another is put on full display by forcing the players to wear these red and blue patches depending on how they voted. Yet another move to pit the players against one another, and yet another example of the moral gray area between Gi-Hun and the Front Man. And also, let's face it, the two votes being two different colors is deeply symbolic of the system in America, where we feel like that we are split into blue states and red states and one side can't stand the other.
What kind of American are you?
The Front Man, the Old Man, and the games like to pretend like they're helping people by offering them a ticket out of poverty, when of course in reality they're just exploiting them for their own entertainment and their own financial gain.
경마 좋아하시죠? 당신들은 말입니다. 경마장의 말. 의외였어요.
The same way that major corporations like to pretend like they're offering their workers a ticket to the top if they provide sufficient productivity, which overwhelmingly benefits the owners and not the workers.
So you'll just work us to death?
We'll sure try.
Now, to refocus on the manipulations of Gi-Hun specifically, there's one scene that mirrors the marble scene moment from Season 1. Gi-Hun's desperation to survive, along with the manipulations of the new Player 1, once again pushed him to sacrifice his morals. This time around, Gi-Hun not only sacrificed human lives to save his own, but to achieve his goal of bringing down the games. Again showing us that Gi-Hun has fallen victim to his old compulsion that landed him in these games in the first place. And just like he proved the Old Man right with the game of marbles, he proved the Front Man right when he proposed a plan that involved sacrificing the lives of other players, even the players on his side of the aisle that had voted to leave. Just like the Front Man was willing to sacrifice his pawns, those being the workers, Gi-Hun is willing to sacrifice his pawns.
We like them little bitches on the chessboard.
Pawns.
We see the Front Man pit workers against other players in an all-out firefight. Yet another game filled with blood and death for the benefactors to enjoy. And yet another example of the Front Man, like the Old Man before him, being in complete control. But this season gave us a peek behind the curtain at not only the recruiter, but also the folks in pink jumpers as well. The workers, like the players, are desperate individuals who are handpicked as easy to control workers. They too are exploited and controlled, just like the players. And in this season, without knowing, the guards are used as fodder and brought into one of the games, essentially becoming players themselves. Some fans have even theorized that in the upcoming third season, we'll see the guards forced to play the next games. When the Front Man clarified that Gi-Hun was willing to sacrifice these people's lives for the greater good, that was the moment when he won.
작은 희생은 감수하자는 건가요?
이번 기회를 놓치면 더 큰 희생을 치르게 될 겁니다.
But Gi-Hun is also pretending. He's acting as if his plan to hide under the beds while others are massacred is somehow for the greater good. The hypocrisy of Gi-Hun is a running theme throughout this season. Again, his intentions are arguably noble, with wanting to bring down the games and spare hundreds if not thousands of future victims. But there is no doubt that there's also a revenge element to what Gi-Hun is doing here. Gi-Hun, whether he likes to admit it or not, has become a member of the top 1%, and he is using his new power and influence to achieve his own selfish goals of revenge. Without realizing it, in some ways, he has become the very thing that he has sworn to destroy. When Gi-Hun proposes his plan to take on the elites running the games, he looks up. Now this of course symbolizes Gi-Hun's perception of these baddies at the top of the economic ladder. But you'll notice when he and the others look up to their perceived oppressors, the Front Man keeps his eyes locked on Gi-Hun. This symbolizes how the Front Man views Gi-Hun as a member of the top 1%, which he is.
Yeah, you'd think Gi-Hun would be suspicious of another player number 1 after the Old Man tricked him in the first season.
Yeah, you would think that, but the Front Man does a pretty good job at keeping up his act as a genuine player. Well, except for this part here.
기훈 씨가 정해주는 걸로 할게요.
제 이름은
This reminded me of this scene from The Shining when Halloran calls Danny Doc.
How'd you know we call him Doc?
Beg pardon?
Doc. You called Danny Doc twice just now.
But again, apart from that, the Front Man did a pretty solid job disguising himself and putting on his whole charade to manipulate Gi-Hun from within. just like the old man. But there were a few key differences between the frontman's playing of the games as compared to the former Player 1. In the first game, Red Light Green Light, the frontman didn't even participate, whereas in Season 1, this appeared to be the old man's favorite game. Now, with a game like Red Light Green Light, there are still a lot of players, and no one has really gotten to know each other yet. So the frontman could safely sit on his throne and watch the games without actually needing to be there as number 1. Granted, had he played, he would have been totally safe, just like the old man always was.
이곳에서 가장 중요한 걸 망쳐놨어. 평등이야. 참가자들 모두가 같은 조건에서 공평하게 경쟁하지.
Remember, when the old man lost at the game of marbles, the guards knew to not shoot him. So we can assume that every guard has been informed to not kill number 1. Now, in the next game, where the players were split between teams and tied together at the legs, the front man benefited from his team going last. That was no accident. This made it to where if his team had lost, everyone but him would have been killed, and no other surviving players would know because they've already been ushered back to their quarters. I also loved how in this game the front man was purposely messing up the spinning top game.
Well, how do you know that?
Well, if you look closely, every time he fails at the spinning top, he is using his right hand. And then, on his final try, when the top spins perfectly, he used his left. You'll remember from Season 1 that when the front man shoots his brother off of that cliff, he used his left hand, confirming that he is left-handed.
20 minutes a day, all feet, no hands, and I'll have the pedidexterity of a chimp, and you'll be sitting there like an idiot.
Now next, in this merry-go-round style game, the front man was safe because if he found himself outside of a room come the end of the countdown, he could simply sit down and be quiet. Any other players outside of a room would be killed, and the surviving players in the rooms would be none the wiser that number 1 was spared. They would just assume that he too made it into a room with the others. But when the front man found himself in a room with Jung Bae and one other player in a round that called for only 2 people to be in a room, the front man had to kill the third player to avoid Jung Bae being killed.
Why would he care if that guy got killed?
Because the front man needed Jung Bae alive so he could do this at the end.
잘 봐. 네 영웅놀이의 결과가 어떤 건지.
Like we said, this entire season was about the front man teaching Gi-Hun a lesson, and he wanted Gi-Hun to not only witness Jung Bae's death at the front man's hand, but he wanted Gi-Hun to feel responsible. Now, I know we've been really hard on Gi-Hun in this video, but I just thought about a good quality of him is that he keeps running up that hill. Despite how corrupt the game is or how evil some people end up being, he never gives up hope. He keeps trying to stop the game and find ways to convince others to quit. In a cynical game, he is a symbol of hope.
우리 이곳을 가둔 놈들을 잡아서 이 게임을 끝내고.
But there are still more games to be played in Season 3, and Gi-Hun still stands a chance of bringing down those games. The post-credit scene revealed the return of the giant creepy doll from Red Light Green Light, but this time, she's accompanied by her boyfriend. We also saw these flashing railroad crossing signs suggesting that this game will be a trolley problem.
You can steer to another track, but on that track is one person you would kill instead of the 5.
Well, then that's easy. I switch tracks. Kill one person instead of 5.
A game where players will likely be forced to choose between killing fellow players on the track as their trolley meets a split in the tracks. Characters like Gi-Hun could be put in a position where they choose to sacrifice a smaller number of people to save a larger number, going back to the scene where Gi-Hun discusses sacrificing people for the greater good. But other characters may decide to choose the path that kills more players so that they can increase their winnings. But the trolley car wasn't the only game teased. In the first season, after the bunk room is emptied of most of its beds, we see that all of the season's games are depicted on the walls. Well, here in Season 2, we can see a game drawn on the walls that is clearly a game of monkey bars. A game that I think will be reminiscent of my favorite game from the first season, Glass Bridge.
Which the President's Council on Fitness ranks as slightly easier than the slide.
Alright, so we have one more little Easter egg for you guys that reveals the hidden connection between Gi-Hun, the front man, the detective, and the old man. Colton Ogburn, the man eternally trapped in our small television but doesn't know it, so please don't tell him, is going to break it down for you right now. Colton, take it away.
Yeah, so there have been some theories going around since Season 1 that the old man is the front man's father, and there's a little hint in the second season that adds to this theory. In Season 1, we heard Gi-Hun say,
초코우유는 없나요? 제가 흰 우유를 못 먹었어요. 어릴 때도 이 흰 우유를 먹으면 소화가 안 돼서.
To which the old man replies,
우리 아들이 꼭 자네 같았거든.
Now, some have theorized that Gi-Hun is actually the old man's son, but in this season, we hear the front man say,
내가 원래 흰우유를 못 마셔요?
So this is yet another feather in the cap for the theory that the front man is actually the old man's son and the heir to the Squid Games. We know that the front man and the detective are brothers, but beyond that, we are still in the dark on the potential familial connections between these four characters. And I assume that in season 3, we will finally get the curtain pulled back and get answers to all of our burning questions and give us a more in-depth look at the origin of the Squid Games.
So guys, that was our breakdown of Squid Game Season 2. Let me know what you thought of the season down in the comments or at me on Twitter or on our free-to-join Discord server. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.